It's the moment you've all been waiting for. No, not Super Bowl 57. My analysis of Super Bowl 57. Jokes aside, welcome to the show. I'm Joe Fortenbaugh for OddsShark, and the big one has finally arrived. Sunday, February 12th from State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. It's Super Bowl 57. Number 1 seed Philadelphia against number 1 seed Kansas City. No time for foreplay in this episode. We have a lot to get to with all the betting options that are on the board. So we begin with the side where Philadelphia, currently a 2-point favorite over the Kansas City Chiefs. Most books here in Vegas open this game as a pick'em. One very sharp book opened Kansas City -2.5. It has moved all the way to Philadelphia -2, where I will be playing Kansas City plus the 2. I gotta be honest, as an Eagles fan, I still have questions. Even at this stage of the season, I still have questions about how good the defense really is. The metrics point to Philadelphia being one of the most elite units in the league, but go back through the season, regular season that is, they played 4 teams, that ranked in the top 10 in scoring. One was Detroit, who hung 35 on them. One was the Cowboys in December, who hung 40 on them. The other 2 were Minnesota and Jacksonville. Those were home games. Those were not elite teams, but the defense did play well. That leads into problem number 2. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes with 2 weeks to get ready for this game. History is littered with examples of Andy Reid dominating the opposition when having an extra week to prepare. He has been fantastic on 2 weeks of preparation. With Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback, I think the game plan will be tailored to be able to avoid the Eagles defense wrecking this game like they did against San Francisco. On the other side, can we trust Jalen Hurts' shoulder? Pre-shoulder injury versus post, the numbers are very different. And if you look at what happened in that San Francisco game, he did not want to throw the ball over the middle of the field. Second half was just taking shots down the sideline. Very few, if any, ended up connecting. I think there could be some issues in this game, especially if we get into a high-scoring affair. And don't discount the fact that these Kansas City players have been to the Super Bowl multiple times. I know Philly was in it 5 years ago, but there's only a few guys left from that team, all right? Having that experience is huge in the week leading up to the game because of everything that is asked of you. Your family needs to get situated. All the ticket requests, the media requests, everyone's banging down your door. If you haven't been there before, you can end up taking your eye off the prize. If you have been there, you understand the distractions and you know how to tune them out. So the official pick for the game is the Kansas City Chiefs +2. Total is sitting around 51 points. It opened around this neighborhood, got bet down to about 49.5, has come back up to 51. I'm not making a large wager here, but I would play the over. If I think there's a game from the regular season that one of these 2 teams played that we could model for this matchup, it would be that Philadelphia-Dallas showdown that had 70+ points, if I'm not mistaken, in December. All right, I think Kansas City is going to find a way to score on this Eagle defense, which, as I mentioned earlier, a bit overrated based on the competition they played throughout the course of the season. Andy Reid with 2 weeks to prepare is going to figure out a way with Patrick Mahomes, get the ball out early. All right, play horizontally, bubble screens, hit receivers in the flat. You don't need to throw it 25 yards down the field. What you need to do is avoid getting sacked, turning the ball over, and getting hurt like the San Francisco quarterbacks did in the NFC Championship game. Conversely, I don't necessarily see Kansas City's defense completely shutting down Philadelphia. I mean, what's the floor for the Philadelphia offense in this game with the way they played this season? 20 points? 24 points? Kansas City ends up winning, we should be able to get there with the number. Keep in mind, these 2 both rank top 11 in pace, so they should be moving up and down the field rather quickly, although I would be expecting of that to happen more in the second half of the game than in the first half. That's the side. That's the total. Let's start working our way through the props market. First touchdown. Which player will be the first to score a touchdown in this game? I'm going to give you 2 guys, one from each team. Jody Fortson, Chiefs wide receiver, 60-1. Kenneth Gainwell, Eagles running back, 18-1. Let's start with Fortson. You look at his stats, he hasn't done much this year. But 60-1 for a guy who plays wide receiver on a team where injuries have ravaged the wide receiver position. No Mecole Hardman, Juju Smith-Schuster's not 100%, Kadarius Toney's not 100%. 60-1 for a guy who could be on the field once the Chiefs move in the scoring range. It's worth a shot in my opinion. Kenneth Gainwell for the Philadelphia Eagles, 18-1. Number 1, Kansas City's bottom 3 in red zone defense, so Gainwell could get into this game and he could do it on the ground or through the air. More likely through the air because Miles Sanders is the primary running back in terms of running the football when the Eagles get close. They also go to Boston Scott as well, but keep in mind, Kansas City has given up the 2nd most targets, the most receptions, and the 4th most receiving yards to opposing running backs this season. If Jalen Hurts may be nervous early, maybe a little overwhelmed, check it down. Kenneth Gainwell is a guy who could break a big play as well. More on him throughout the course of this show. Those are your anytime touchdown, your first player to score a touchdown props. What about anytime touchdown? We just need this player, whoever we bet, to get in the end zone at any time during the game. Again, I'm going to give you two options. One from Philadelphia, quarterback Jalen Hurts minus 105. In addition, again, Jody Fortson, Chiefs wide receiver, 10-1. Hurts found the end zone via the rushing attack 15 times in 17 games this season. 15 times. He's been in the end zone in 7 of the last 9 games, and Kansas City has struggled this year to defend opposing quarterbacks. If memory serves me correctly, they have given up the 6th most rushing touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks this season. This was at one point plus 110. It's now minus 105, and for good reason. Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown. Jody Fortson, we mentioned it earlier. With all the injuries to the Kansas City wide receiving unit, you're telling me I could have a wide receiver who plays a decent amount of snaps at 10-1 to find the end zone in a game where the total is 51? Sign me up for that one. Jalen Hurts, Jody Fortson, anytime touchdowns. Keeping it moving, it's time to look at the MVP market, all right? I always like to take some shots here, all right? You might find me looking at some favorites, but I'm gonna look to take a shot as well in the event we have a scenario where defense ruins the day for the opposition. So we're gonna make 3 plays here. Number 1 is an obvious one. Patrick Mahomes plus 130. Number 2, Miles Sanders, Eagles running back, 22-1. Number 3, Eagles pass rusher Hassan Reddick at 35-1. Let's start with Patrick Mahomes. Ask yourself this. What's the likelihood that the Chiefs win the Super Bowl and Mahomes is not the MVP? Do we see Kansas City winning 10-7 and giving the award to a defensive player? Do we see it going to Travis Kelce? Perhaps. The reality of the situation is that the Chiefs are going to win this game against this Philadelphia team. Mahomes is going to have to play big. And take a look at it like this. Kansas City to win this game on the money line is plus 105. Mahomes is plus 130. I see value there. On the other side, if Philadelphia does get it done, Miles Sanders at 22-1 should see a lot of carries in this game against a Kansas City defense that ranks 15th defending the run, according to Football Outsiders. Get close to the end zone, pound a couple in on the ground. Suddenly, if Jalen Hurts doesn't have a huge game through the air, and it's a higher scoring affair so the defense doesn't look great, and Philadelphia wins, Sanders could be in play. 22-1 for a team that loves to run the ball, very appealing. And then Hassan Reddick, almost 20 sacks so far on the season. If the Eagles defense wrecks this game like they did against San Francisco, it's possible voters want to award that unit, or reward that unit, I should say, by giving them an award. Hassan Reddick, 35-1 worth of play. Josh Sweat, who had double-digit sacks this year as well, just throwing it out there, he's 150-1. You might want to take a shot with him. Player props. We got a lot. We're going to go rapid fire. Buckle up. Kenneth Gainwell over 1.5 receptions and over 11.5 receiving yards. Eagles kicker Jake Elliott under 7.5 total points. Miles Sanders to lead all players in the game in rushing yards plus 175. Marquez Valdez-Scantling over 2.5 receptions, and then Kansas City tight end Noah Gray over 11.5 receiving yards. Kenneth Gainwell will begin with him. Kansas City has struggled to defend opposing running backs all season long. Second most targets allowed, most receptions allowed, 4th most receiving yards allowed. Gainwell leads the Eagles in targets in terms of running backs coming out of the backfield. I like him to go over 1.5 receptions and over 11.5 receiving yards. Jake Elliott, under 7.5 points. The Eagles love to go for it on 4th down. All right, right when they're on that field goal range, punt range, 4th and short, they love to go for it. They also like to take some shots when it comes to 2-point conversions. So we're gonna go under 7.5 points on Elliott. Some books have moved that to 6.5. It's gotten so much action. Miles Sanders to lead the game in rushing yards. Look at it like this. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is back for Kansas City. So it's McKinnon, Edwards-Helaire, and Isaiah Pacheco carrying the ball for Kansas City against a pretty good Eagle run defense, which is average, I should say. They're not an elite run defense, but they're decent. Okay? Those guys are all gonna eat into each other's touches. On the other side, Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, they're used a little bit in the passing game. Sanders is going to be the featured running back, okay? He's basically in a heads-up battle, in my opinion, against quarterback Jalen Hurts. And at plus 175, we'll take a shot on Sanders. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, over 2.5 receptions. He was targeted 8 times and had 6 receptions. He was targeted 8 times and had 6 receptions in the AFC Championship game because of all the injuries at the position. Well, Mecole Hardman's out. You have a situation where Kadarius Toney's banged up and Juju Smith-Schuster's banged up. So over 2.5 receptions for MVS in a game where Patrick Mahomes should be throwing a lot. I love that play. And then finally, Noah Gray over 11.5 receiving yards. The backup tight end for Kansas City. He will not command a lot of attention. He was targeted in all 19 games this season. He caught at least one pass in 18 of those 19 games. So to get over 11.5 yards, it could be just that one reception we need in order to pull it off. The coin flip. Everyone wants to know how you're going to play the coin flip. I generally don't, because I don't like starting with bad mojo. But I will start with this. If you're going to play the coin flip, do not under any circumstances lay juice. Minus 104, minus 106, minus 110, that makes it the ultimate sucker's bet. The only reason you should even consider making this bet is if you want to have some fun, have a little action right before the game starts, and that you're getting an even money proposition. And if you're going to make the bet, bet heads, because every idiot says tails never fails. Well, that's not true. Tails fails 50% of the time. Heads is the play. Live betting strategy before we say goodbye. I would look at two elements to this game when it comes to live betting. Number one, the Eagles' pass defense. They're supposed to be number one in the NFL according to Football Outsiders. They're also number one in pressure rate. If Kansas City's moving the ball on them early, I would be looking to bet live overs in this game. I'd also be looking to be betting the Chiefs. Okay? They've wrecked a lot of games this year. But if they can't get stops like in that Dallas game, it's going to be a high-scoring affair. Number two, Jalen Hurts completing the ball over the middle of the field. That was the big problem for Hurts last year. That's why they brought in A.J. Brown. He solved all of that. But if they cannot work the middle of the field, Hurts is just going to be chucking it down the sidelines, and the Eagles are going to struggle to move the ball, at least through the air. Those are the two key elements I would look for when it comes to live betting to see how the game is going to play out. Thank you, not just for watching this, but for your support all season long. On behalf of everyone at OddsShark, we love you guys. All the feedback we've gotten and the continued support, you're the best. Oddshark.com for everything you need Super Bowl related. Best of luck, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.